Thank you so much. So again, here, the clicker. My name is Vivian Rhoads, and yeah, I'm gonna talk today about the new marketing playbook. But before I get to that, I wanted to share a little bit of wisdom, I guess. Really, usually if you're like me, you go into a conference and you're super excited, you're gonna meet a lot of people, and you come, you take your notebook, you're all ready, you're going by the third and fourth presentation, meaning by right now, you might be feeling like this, when I call the limited state. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much that I should be doing. Although these great people are coming here and they're sharing their wisdom, but you start getting like, oh my God, I need to send an email right now, I need to take that note. And by the time I'm here presenting, you might not even be listening because you're paying attention to that. Can you guys relate to that? Do you know what I'm talking about? So I encourage you today during my presentation, but also through the rest of the 2.5 days that you have, to really get in a state of mind, of a limitless state of mind. And that is really that point in which you feel like everything that you're getting here are things that you're putting on your boat. So you see that guy, he's in control. He's there in the front, he's controlling his destination, but he's just learning more and getting more. So feel expanded, feel like, you're here, there's a reason why you're here, there's a reason why you're listening to this, and make sure that you're open to it. I just wanted to share with you because that's something I learned through over the years, and sometimes the hard ways and getting super stressed out, especially because you guys are in a hot spot, I would say. So now let's get to the topic. So I'm going to be talking about 3 fundamentals of this playbook, right? I could spend the whole 2.5 days talking about marketing, and there are a lot of conferences, there are week-long conferences that I've been to many of them talking about marketing. But there are 3 things that are pretty fundamental. One is really what's your brand strategy, kind of what's the brand strategy foundation. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then number 2 is really to make your brand available. And I'm talking, we heard a lot from LA Libations about the quality of the presence that you have, but I want to expand your concept of what availability is. And the number 3, then we're going to go down and say, okay, how do I connect to that consumer and become part of their lives? So those are the 3 things. So you guys ready? Yeah? Cool. All right. So let's go to branding. And here I have 3 things as well. If you know me, 3 is my number, and my phone number is 323-333-3880. So I tend to think a lot in 3s. So there are 3 things here to start. But at the end of the day, at the beginning, I would say, you really need to be consumer-centric. And we heard a lot about sales, about channel-driven, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't care about that, but if you are consumer-centric, and if you build that intuition of who your consumer target is, and you put in your mind that you're serving that consumer, that's how you're gonna get beyond, and you're gonna get people to actually buy your brand. If you think about, actually, all that I need to care is to be there and push and push and push, this is limited. The true successes are from the brands that actually make that connection, and that consumers are actually asking for that brand. And the second thing is a definition of the brand, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then listening. Listen to what they have to say. So if you have started, doing any type of social and digital, you are going to be seeing that a lot of people are talking about brand persona. So the definition about your consumer, what a consumer target probably used to be, I've been in this business for 15 years, not nearly as long as a lot of people here, but 15 years ago we were talking about consumer target, but we're not talking in the level of detail that it's being talked to today. Why? Because today you have the ability to hyper-target your message to the right people. So this is an example of a brand persona. Feel free to email me, I'll send you a template. But now people know exactly, and you picture in your mind who that person is. Are they married or not? Do they have kids? Who influenced them? What are the key pain points that they have in their lives? So you're kind of getting in their DNA. And why this is important, it's important, like when you're talking about bringing people into your organization, like you're talking, people really understand who you're serving a lot of your decisions from an operation, finance perspective, channel perspective are going to become easier because you're really clear on that. And often I work with entrepreneurs, and it's funny because I was walking on Expo West with a friend of mine, and she does a lot of blogging, and she's also a marketing consultant, and she said, you know what, I'm going to ask every brand here that I talk to who their consumer target is. And she said, okay, so you would come, majority of people, and she talked with about, I think, 40 companies, majority of people would say, hey, actually, my product's great for everybody. It's like everybody. And yeah, because, it has protein, it can be weight management, it can be for sporting, it can be actually for the mom with kids who want the kids to have protein, and blah, blah, blah. And the other group actually gave an answer and said, oh, this might be for mom with kids, but really, it's for anyone. So often this happens. Obviously, it's hard to make a decision who your consumer target, and sometimes you don't even know, but you have to find the ways of listening and finding that person who you're serving. And think about that. The more you know about them, the more you're going to be able to develop something that actually is going to add value to their lives. And we're here about adding values to people's lives. So this is an example. Everybody talks about Halo Top, how incredible this brand is doing. And I found this quote I thought was great in this Ad Age article is, if you can focus on people who actually want to see your ads, everyone is happier. Think about that. If you're actually talking to people who want that message, it's not pushing market. You're just serving them, and they're finding a product that solves a problem. So that's why targeting is super important. Now, brand strategy, we could talk a lot about that. It's an area of passion of me. But there are two things that I really want you to know. And actually, when you're talking to people, that's what engages people. It's like, what's your mission? What do you stand for? And what are you doing? Why you're waking up in the morning and facing all those challenges? Why? And then why should a consumer should care? What is the promise? What are you delivering? Why should they care? Those are two things that we tend to focus a lot, and I'm going to talk more about that, in functional attributes, in IPs or patents that you might have, and a lot of whether or not which claims do you have or not have, and we forget that. At the end of the day, you need to connect with people, and mostly people are connected with emotional messages. I'll talk more about that. And then listening. Listening, it's obvious, right? That's how you learn. You listen, and there are several ways of listening. You're doing your product demo, you might be listening, you do an event. On social media, that's ability to listen about what people are saying about you, or what they're saying about the competitors, or you can put together focus groups or invite friends and all of that. But what I wanted to say is that, again, like often I talk to entrepreneurs and get, initial meetings and ask, what's your brand about? And they say, actually, I had a really great meeting with a buyer last week, and the buyer told me that what they like about my brand is X, Y, and Z. So that's what my brand is. So I call this the brand of the month, that you're getting feedback on your brand, and suddenly you're like switching like your core communication based on the feedback. And obviously you need to learn and iterate and improve your brand, but be very conscientious about that. You have to find your true north and know kind of what feedback to take and how to ultimately make the decisions. You're the decision maker. Okay, so that goes to number 2. Make your brand available. And I want to get a little bit kind of scientific here. This is something I came across, and I find that so illuminating in the way that I work with brands, is that 95% of purchase decisions are emotional decisions, are irrational decisions, are feeling-based decisions. They are unconscious. 5% of purchase decisions are actually rational, fact-based. And the reason why I bring here, we often, when we talk about the differentiation, the distinctions of our brands, we tend to go to the rational side, to the fact-based side. And I want to encourage you to actually, when you start tapping into that emotion and making it easy for a consumer to shop, that's where magic's going to happen. And imagine yourself, like you go to a grocery store. Imagine that if every aisle, every product you have to buy, you have to compare how many grams of protein, what's the price per ounce, is this bigger, do I like this logo, not like logo? We don't shop that way. It would take a month to go through a grocery store. We really shop, they're shortcuts. They're shortcuts. You know, I had a past experience, I go and I buy it, or no, I like the color, I like the vibe of this brand. Some, I might stop and actually read the label, but you know, I might try it anyway, not based on what I read. So I want to tap into that because I think we tend to over-focus on rational points of difference. And I'm going to talk to you how you can build some of those emotional triggers. So this is is from a book, a model. I was very fortunate to be able to work with this company in the past that talked about how to make brand available. And what that means is that there's physical availability. Actually, physical availability is that idea of maximizing the opportunities that someone will be able to find your brand, right? So think about distribution, you know, how many like store set, eye level, all that's about physical availability. But then there's mental availability, and that's when it starts getting to the emotional part that I was talking about, or the irrational side, which is about maximizing the opportunities that people will think of you or notice of you at the point of purchase. And you know, Debbie talked about the importance of actually getting to the right channel. Exactly, it's very important from a physical availability, but also from a mental availability. When I'm shopping for an occasion, you know, you need to be where people are going to be thinking about. You should be part of the competitive set that someone will look at. So a little bit more detail. So first thing, maximize your presence. So we talked about earlier on about the right location, right channels, right location in the store, right eye level. Packaging design that converts. And I should emphasize, your packaging needs to have stopping power. You know, at the end of the day, the packaging is your #1 marketing vehicle, and it will be for a long time. So your packaging needs to be able to connect with that person right away and get that sale. POS, also with stopping power. The thing is, a lot of stores right now have the clean store policy, so POS is getting harder to get. But retailers also have their, I would say, the things that they're working on with their shoppers. So if you get in a campaign that they're actually part of, then you can manage, you can get part of POS. Think about, you know, Whole Foods and local. You know, yeah, there's local signs all over the place and a picture of people. Secondary merchandising location, I won't talk much about that, but it's just, again, getting in unexpected places that actually will stop people. And then using product demos in store as engaging, really engaging experiences. When I work, I remember talking to someone, a marketing sampling, product sampling agency, and they said every time that you get beyond the table and the tablecloth, you're golden. But what that meant was not that you have to have a lot of things, you know, and some brands go, like Suja started making a blast when they had the coolers, like beautiful displays when sampling. But sometimes it's just the individual that's there behind the counter, someone who can really connect, super friendly, engaging, passionate. And you know what I mean. Sometimes you go get a sample with someone like, I've been doing this for 3 hours. You know, I couldn't care less. You know, you really need to make it an engaging. And those are things about, you know, physical availability. And then mental availability. And this is the part that really excites me because, like, there are a lot of neuroscience behind this thing, which is simple and consistent brand assets, okay? Sometimes brands overthink designs, overthink their branding. And the more that you have consistency and simplicity, again, make it really easy for a consumer to recognize you and to shop for you. Here we talk about it and we hear a lot, and I talk about that too, about what's your point of difference. But think about distinctiveness. You might have the exact same product as someone else, but actually you're distinctive. You in the way that you talk, it might be the voice of your brand, might be the name of your brand. That's part of distinctiveness that you can connect with consumer. The liquid itself might not be so innovative and full of patents and all of that. This happens, you know, but think about the distinctiveness. Think about Smart Water and the water inside, really, like how they create a distinctive brand through the name without really getting much, you know, the water's not so unique. Existing memory structures, I find that fascinating. So your brain has structures, memory, so when you say a word, other things are triggered. So I'm going to test with you guys. If I say organic, what are the words that come to mind? Natural. Plant-based. Verizon. Sustainable. Earth. Certified. Okay, so USDA. So there are a lot of positive associations. So then a brand organic value, they borrow those memory structures. They didn't have to educate you on the things they stand for because they are so shortcut. Doesn't mean that your name needs to be so descriptive. Think about suja. Someone said suja. Before you knew what suja meant, what memory structure came to mind? Nothing. Nothing. Okay? So you just need to educate. But then they come together with a packaging that looks like a Lululemon bag, you know, a Lululemon bag. So then they borrowed the memory structures that Lululemon created. And so, you know, it's athletic, it's healthy, it's premium, all that, you know. So think about that when you think, what are the memory structures that you're tapping into that will allow people to, like, emotionally, rationally build a connection with your brand? Story and purpose, you know, people connect with stories, right? Connect with the person behind it. But, you know, the days are gone that people are only buying based on the passions. Actually, it's just an element of your marketing. But make sure that you're talking and engaging in a simple way that people can relate to. And the bottom line is that emotions trumped facts all the time, or 95% of the time, like it's on that model. Really, emotions trump. And I'm not saying that you should be in la la land, just emotional, but like those emotions that I'm talking about, I'm triggering something. I'm saying this and you're triggering. Like if I say I'm Brazilian, which I am, what are the images? What are the memory structures that you... Party, soccer, you know? So those are, you know, that make sure that you understand. Here is an example. I like Vita Coco for this. It's a very simple example. Look at that. Blue everywhere with the green. They show actually their whole packaging. They don't show just the logo. Actually, because then you can go in store, you can recognize that, right? Clear. Across digital, in-store, experiential, everywhere. I'm not saying that you as a brand, you're going to go take over New York like they did, but I'm just saying that, you know, keeping consistency. Big brands know that. And the consistency of it. And it's just like in this summer, in summer 2015, their same-store sales lifted by 30% with this campaign. You guys with me? Ready for the third? All right, so become part of your consumer lives. And probably now I'm going to get to the things that you probably expected you're going to hear in the marketing playbook, which is actually what I call are the ingredients. There are so many ingredients, and I could come up here, and I know I've heard so many times, and best practices, you know, as a small brand, you should focus here first, and then you do that, and you do that. I know there's so many rules, but again, down to that limitless state of mind, actually, you're the driver. You know your brand. You know your consumer, the connection. You're going to know what are the ingredients that you need to make your brand unique and actually successful in the marketplace. So I'm going to talk about social, influencer, email, and experiential marketing. Content marketing is within that. So let's get into that. Become part of the conversation in social media. The conversation is happening. It's happening without you if you don't join. So commit to a channel that your consumer is ready and engage with it. Okay? So commit. Commit to it. And have a consistent voice and imagery, right? So you should have a calendar for what you're going to post in social media, and keep the content very dynamic. And when I work with brands, we say, there's certain things that you should post about the industry, other things about your brand, about your purpose, other things about your consumer and their lifestyle. And then some things, probably not more than a third day, you're actually asking them to take an action. Some brands like me, share this, share that, I'll give you a coupon and all that. This becomes annoying for people. You actually need to give content that's word of mouth, worthy, so they want to engage. And, the world of organic posts is over. So, of course, the big Facebook and so forth, they learned they can make money out of boosts, and actually the product that they're giving you is really good because you can hyper-target. Again, you have your brand persona. You can reach to that person. And so make sure you boost to get, your message in. But, before I move out of this, I want to say that probably as an investment, investing in someone who's going to take care of your social is important, because often, is the founder and the brother of the founder, they're doing everything. And, then you have a buyer meeting, you meet a broker, and then you're, fixing stuff in the factory, and then you come to BevNet, time passes, in 5 weeks you posted once, So that's not really very good. So make sure that you have people dedicated to it and take it seriously, because this stuff works. Influencer, gaining traction. And we talked about influencers all over this room. The influencers I'm also talking about are, online influencers, people who help you develop or deliver content. And really, content is everything, especially from an influencer perspective. You can get a very authentic voice from your influencers, and you find who the right influencers are based on actually your brand persona. Who's influencing? Do your research, and who are the influencers? And I'm not talking about celebrities. They're bloggers that have tons of reach, that that they're not known by you and I reading People magazine. So just make sure that you do your research, and be aware that you have influencers everywhere across your entire operation. Email. I think this is pretty much under-leveraged a lot. So make sure you collect emails of your potential customers, and start that investing in email marketing. You need to know the law. It's very detailed. You need to make sure that you have permissions and all that. But there's a science behind email marketing too. You can go online and find tons of free information about which words you can put, in the subject line that will get the click-through rates and all of that. So the opportunity, especially if you're doing e-commerce, that's a huge opportunity for you to tap into email, into people who already express that they're interested in learning about your brand. And the language is very important. Images are very important. And so kind of some of the things around it. And lastly, experiential. We talked about creating experiential, immersive experiences in store with demos. Make sure that when you do, and you don't need big budgets, you just need to be in the right place in the right time where your consumer is. So think about having a creative idea and a spotless execution. Can be like a small thing, low budget, but as soon as you're delivering it spotless, and you can leverage it in social media. You can think about guerrilla tactics to deliver in that. But what's important about engaging experiences? And I was recently in a conference. So I used to work for Procter and Gamble, and there was a big P&G alumni, and it was literally 5 days talking about marketing. And one of the things that one of the people said was, Disney understood it's not about delivering experiences, it's about delivering transformational experiences. As a small brand, it's possible, and I'm gonna share. When I was working at PepsiCo and I was doing venturing, I was the one who actually found Kevita in the floor and brought in for the conversation. And I used to take probiotic pills. I actually didn't have a drink, but I started drinking Kevita because it was part of, figuring out if that was a good brand for PepsiCo to invest in. And it became like a passion. It changed me. It changed because finally I had a low, no sugar product that was fun to drink, it was flavorful, everything natural. I started telling a lot of people. And then I got into kombucha because I'm like, that's the next level. I started learning about kombucha, learning about GTs, really went on meditation, went to India and everything else that you could think of, and now I brew kombucha at home. Look at the journey that I have, Kevita, but I hold Kevita dear and near to my heart because it started me in this journey for health. So it's possible, and I think that's what are the transformation experiences that you can bring to your consumer. So that's about it. Those are the 3 things. Do I have time for questions?
Absolutely. Yeah, great. Who has questions for Vivian? Right over here.
My favorite shirt. Love my guts. A Kevita shirt. Do I need?
Yes.
Hi, Chris Pace, head of the Pace. I have a sampling agency, so I'm familiar with a lot, and experiential agency, so I'm familiar with what you're doing. The gentleman before in the last session said that most of the brands, the categories weren't around 5 years ago. And if we're talking about beverages, those are a lot of functional beverages, ones that need education. So when you go over different, I hate to say this, but school book type of, here, do this, do this, do this, do this, how do you see functional beverages as being out of that realm? Because it's not about as much as an emotional. It's more of, we have sampling. We don't do that, here you go, here you go, here you go. I always tell whoever's working for us, they need to be one step closer to buying after they leave. And we're working with a client right now who took 5 agency people, and they came up with a afternoon break that women wanted to have a caffeine break, and then they applied that to their brand. The information didn't say their brand, they wanted their brand, but they made that jump because they're trying to just use analytics. From an informational standpoint, do you go more of product sampling, experiential? Do you need to be touch me, feel me in front of someone for these functional beverages? And does that break out of the mold of what you're saying for, you used Halo as a, that's totally, people go and buy that once a week or once every 2 weeks. A beverage is something that you buy every day.
I think absolutely functional beverages fit within the bill because at the end of the day, obviously you need to educate. And the way that you educate a consumer, you can choose to have a PowerPoint presentation with facts in it, or you can engage people and actually talk about what is the occasion, when they should think about this product, why does it fit, and do what they want to do in that moment. So obviously there are functional facts, but the way that you deliver, it's not in a functional dry way. And I think if you go to a supermarket and you go some functional brands, and a lot of brands that die, really literally their packaging look like a PowerPoint presentation with a list of things. I don't think that's enough. That education needs to happen, but at the same time, the way that you educate and engage needs to tap to that fact that at the end of the day, the person needs to know that that's a product for them that they can engage on. There's one aspect that I want to talk about, because I have experience also launching really early on, and really sometimes in functional beverages, early adopters are people who actually need that functionality. So often it's someone, it's an athlete that need that inflammation. So that beet juice, they want to know how much there is in there, or that protein, actually you're talking to a cancer patient, they need to know how much. So absolutely, they are extreme in that phase. So I'm not talking about the consumer, I'm talking about making your brand closer to a mass, expanding it to a broader consumer base, and you need to balance both.